What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'll be showcasing a Pokemon that is typically banned for the Great League, but I guess Scopely forgot to ban it in the Naic meta, and that Pokemon is Xerneas. Now if you're wondering how to obtain this Pokemon or why it's usually banned, it was available to catch at the start of the sort of trial run Go Pass, which was only available in certain regions of the world, and also in the early editions of the Go Pass, the legendary encounters were catchable at level 15 rather than level 20, which meant that both Xerneas and Yveltal could be caught close to 1500 CP. Now you would still have to trade them in order for the IVs to go down and fit into the Great League, but it was obtainable. Now because they weren't available to everyone, both Xerneas and Yveltal have been banned in the Great League since their release, but occasionally Scopely forgets to ban them in new metas, and it looks like the Naic meta seems to be one of them. Now these battles were done during the first week of the season, so there is a chance that it has now been banned, but if you happen to have one, it might be worth checking to see if it's still usable. Now this Pokemon is by no means top meta in the Naic Cup, so don't feel like you're missing out massively if you don't have it, but it is really cool to see it used when it's normally ineligible for the Great League. And these battles were submitted to the channel by InsaneCarF9, who is also running two buff Pokemon in the form of Kecleon with the standard new moveset, as well as Cast Form, opting for Hurricane, which is buffed this season, rather than the buffed Eligible, which is quite interesting. But anyways, thank you for the submission, and with that being said, let's get into the question of the day. Which legendary Pokemon would you love to be able to use in the Great League? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so go into the first battle here, leading Xerneas into Miltank. So Miltank is pretty bulky, but we've got access to close combat, so let's see how much damage that can do in this matchup. We're going to no-shield the first move, as the opponent does just go straight for a body slam. We're going to farm up to back-to-back close combats here, and hopefully this will get the knockout. The opponent not going to shield, and it does get the one-shot. That is really nice for us, because we still have another close combat loaded. We're going to swap out straight away, as of course we did just debuff our defense, as the opponent comes in with a Grumpig. Going straight for Weather Ball, it's not really going to deal too much damage here, but we can now shield a Dynamic Punch, and Hexes, they are super effective, they are adding up over time. Are they going to shield the next Weather Ball here? Let's find out. Weather Ball number 2, going to get them very low, but the opponent is just going to no shield, recognizing they can tank it, and Dynamic Punch from this range will get the knockout. But we can just come in with our Kecleon, go for the Sucker Punch farm down, and their final Pokemon is going to be a Duot. So of course, we've got Thunder Punch for coverage here. Thunder Punch is going to hit for super effective damage. We've grabbed the shield, and now we're actually going to swap back into our Xerneas. Now Xerneas is a Fairy-type Pokemon, so we're going to resist the Fury Cutter damage. They randomly go for an X-Scissor there, which is quite strange, but either way, doesn't really matter too much. Close Combat number 1 grabs the final shield, and we have a second one already loaded. Close Combat number 2 doesn't quite get the knockout there. The opponent can fire off the Arc Tail. Arc Tail will KO, but one more Sucker Punch from our Kecleon gets the farm down, and we're able to take that game. So going into the next battle, we're going to see Pidgeot in the lead. So we're going to stay in with the Xerneas, at least initially here, and we are going to go and full send a Moonblast right off the bat. Moonblast is unfortunately shielded by the opponent, and at this point, we're probably just going to wait for the opponent to throw some energy, and then just allow the move to go through. The opponent going to go for a Feather Dance bait there, which does debuff our attack stat, but we're able to hang on, and so we swap into our Cast Form. Unfortunately for us, though, they're going to reach another Feather Dance, where now Weather Ball won't be enough damage to get the knockout. So Weather Ball, we fire this off, it's not going to deal enough damage, and we're never going to be able to go for a Hex farm down, as it's double resisted and we're double debuffed. But Weather Ball number 2 does get the KO there, and now they're going to come in with a Hypno. We can swap out, clear the debuff, and come in with the Kecleon. So of course, we don't know what their final Pokemon is just yet, so we will use a shield here, just in case they've got something with heavy fastly pressure into us. But for now, we can fire off our own Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch, gonna get the Hypno fairly low, and we can just decide to no shield now. The opponent fires off a Thunder Punch of their own once again, but Kecleon committing to a huge farm down, getting the full farm down, and their final Pokemon is going to be a Galarian Slowking. So we fire off the Thunder Punch once again, grabbing the final shield there, and we can reach yet another Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch number 2 gonna connect. It doesn't really deal that much damage, but we've still got a shield in play. Now I did mention in the intro that Hurricane was a bit of a strange choice for this meta, but actually it's going to be very handy here, as it's going to deal a lot of damage. Eligible would be resisted, but Hurricane gets the knockout, and we're able to take that game. Into the next battle, we're going to see an opposing cast form, so we're going to stay in this matchup, at least initially. And again, we're not going to throw straight away, because we don't want to throw and then have it shielded, and then, of course, debuff our defense. So we farm up to back-to-back charges. The opponent actually goes for their own energy ball there. We go for the close combat. Close combat, gotta be shielded, but we've already got a second one loaded. Are they going to double shield here? Close combat is going to be double shielded. So at this point, we're happy to let the Xerneas go down here. Weather ball will get the knockout, and now we're going to come in with our Kecleon. Now, they can still outpace us to the next charge attack, but that's okay. They once again go for the energy ball. We are going to look to overfarm, and the opponent does make quite a nice catch there, catching a dynamic punch onto a Luminion, where, of course, Thunder Punch would have been super effective. Now, unfortunately for us, we are going to have to shield here. I don't think the Thunder Punch would have quite got the knockout from that range, so now we're going to look to overfarm and fire off the Thunder Punch before they reach Alcatel number 2. Thunder Punch gets the knockout there. They come back in with the cast form, and we're able to swap and catch the charge move onto our own cast form. They fire off the Weather Ball. That's fine with us. We're now looking to overfarm here. The opponent's going to swap out and into a Dunsparce. Of course, they are double resisting the fast food pressure, whilst rollouts are hitting for neutral. However, of course, Drill Run, whilst it is sort of a buff for most Pokemon, probably not the case for Dunsparce here, as it doesn't do enough damage to even two-shot us. But we're going to fire off the Hurricane. Hurricane does big damage. We swap into Kecleon. We go for the Snipe with the Thunder Punch, and Thunder Punch will get the knockout. They're going to come back in with the cast form, and honestly, we probably shield here, even though we recognize the opponent will outpace us to the next move. We just need the Sucker Punch damage to apply enough pressure to put them into range where a single Weather Ball will get the knockout. They're certainly in that range, so we can fire off the Weather Ball straight away. Weather Ball will be taking out the opposing cast form, and we're able to take that game. Into the next battle, we're going to see Xerneas into Florges. So this is going to be a battle of the pure Fairy-type Pokemon. Unfortunately, they are going to massively outpace us here. And of course, it's very likely that they're going to be on Chilling Water, so they're going to look to debuff our attack stat. So that's not ideal for us, but we can now fire off a Moonblast straight away. And Moonblast, unfortunately, is going to be shielded. So we're now going to swap out, try to catch a charge move here onto our cast form. However, it backfires as the opponent can now go for not one but two Chilling Waters before we reach a potential Hurricane. And by this point, unfortunately, because we're going to be double debuffed here, Hurricane, whilst it is a pretty hard-hitting move, this is going to be nowhere near enough damage to get the knockout, so the opponent can just no-shield this and outpace us to yet another move. But at this point, we have got them very low to the point where we can probably just come in and Sucker Punch farm them down with the Kecleon, and we do exactly that. But the opponent's going to have a second Fairy-type Pokemon in the back. This time it's going to be a Galarian Weezing, and unfortunately that is a lot worse for us just because our charge moves are going to be completely resisted on our Xerneas, and of course we've only got neutral Thunder Punches which are non-stab to throw into the Weezing here with our Kecleon. Sucker Punch and Dynamic Punch are also resisted, but we can no-shield a Brutal Swing, fire off Thunder Punch number 2, and Thunder Punch is going to get them fairly low. But never really into the point where we could fast move farm them down, and the opponent's going to reveal their final Pokemon to be a shiny Mew, which is really cool to see. The opponent gonna be able to shield, go for the full Shadow Claw farm down, and let's see what charge moves they've got. We're gonna shield here. The opponent running buffed Energy Ball, which is really cool to see on the Mew. Unfortunately, they do barely outpace us to the next charge attack, and of course, the opponent also running Wild Charge. Wild Charge gets the knockout, and unfortunately, we lose that game. But into the next battle, we're going to see a Pidgeot in the lead once again. However, this time around, it looks like they're on Air Slash rather than Gust, or even Wing Attack. We go for Moonblast. Moonblast gets the knockout. I guess both, is Gust and Wing Attack both Legacy, or is it just Wing Attack? I can't remember. Either way, definitely don't want to run Air Slash. They're going to see, or we're going to see a Dunsparce coming in. Sorry, the Dunsparce coming in. We are going to swap into our Kecleon after banking energy on our Xerneas, as the opponent's going to fire off the Drill Run. Then I'm going to come in with a final Pokemon, which is revealed to be a Quagsire. We go for Dynamic Punch, and that does just under half their HP. We can no-shield this, even if they go for a Mud Bomb here, which they do. We can tank it, and they won't be able to Mud Shot farm us down before we reach yet another Dynamic Punch. So Dynamic Punch likely going to grab a shield from the opponent. It does exactly that, but we can now come back in with the Xerneas and fire off a close combat just before they do farm us down. Now we've got a 2-shot advantage here. Of course, it would be slightly better for us if our cast form had access to Energy Ball, but it doesn't really matter. We put them into range where likely a Weather Ball, even resistant damage, should get the knockout, but they do reach back-to-back charge moves here. So we're actually going to shield the second move here. We're then going to go straight for the Weather Ball. Weather Ball should be enough damage, even resisted, to get the knockout. And now they come back in with the Dunsparce, and we should be fine. By the time we reach a Hurricane, likely it will get the knockout. They go for a Body Slam there. We don't really need to, but we're going to swap out and catch the charge attack onto our Kecleon. And of course, Body Slam gets the knockout. We can now fire off the Hurricane. Does this get the KO from this range? The answer is absolutely yes. And we're able to take that game. Into next battle, we're going to see Xerneas into an opposing Kecleon. So this is a great matchup for us. The opponent is going to be swapping into Fearow, and unfortunately they can barely outpace us. So we're going to look to shield here. I don't mind staying in with the Xerneas, at least initially. We're going to full send a Moonblast, but likely we will look to swap out anyways. So personally, I would have gone for close combat and then look to swap into Cast Form, because now we've put them into range where a single Weather Ball will get the knockout. But we can still outpace them in this matchup here just by a single turn, and we go for a Weather Ball. So Weather Ball should get the KO, but they actually double shield the Fearow. We're not going to bother double shielding here, so Drill Peck will get the knockout. We can come back in with the Xerneas if we want to, and we're going to do exactly that. We throw a close combat straight away here. Close combat, of course, definitely going to get the KO there. So let's see what their final Pokemon is. We're going to swap out straight away, but again, it's going to be a Galarian Weezing, and that is a really tricky core breaker for the remainder of our team, as once again, unfortunately, we can only go for neutral Thunder Punches. However, this is the Shadow form, so maybe 2 Thunder Punches will be enough damage to KO, but it will be very close. So we're going to shield here, as the opponent is, of course, going to fire off yet another Brutal Swing. They likely swap back into their own Kecleon, and unfortunately for us, whilst this is super effective damage, Dynamic Punch will not get the KO. We're forced to swap out there. But unfortunately, they can go for a Thunder Punch here. They actually go for Dynamic Punch, getting the knockout. They Sucker Punch, farm us down, and we end up losing that game. But into the next battle, we're going to see Whiscash in the lead. So this is going to be a fairly neutral matchup here. The opponent is going to fire off the Charge Move straight away. Should just be a Mud Bomb, which we're going to no-shield. Nope, never mind. That is a Scald. Never mind. But we can now farm up to back-to-back close combats. First one is going to be no-shielded. It does big damage. We don't want to waste our energy throwing another close combat at such low HP. So instead, we're going to swap into our Kecleon. And the opponent's going to come in with a Poison Jab Mew, which is a really interesting decision there. I'm not sure if maybe they just ran out of fast moves, but either way, we don't need to shield this, but we're going to shield anyways. They are once again on Energy Ball, which is quite cool to see. We're going to go for a Thunder Punch here, and Thunder Punch should get the knockout from this range, and it does do that. Then I'm going to come in with a Pidgeot, and we can reach yet another Thunder Punch before they fully farm us down. Now remember, Xerneas did bank a close combat, so we go for the combo play, going for close combat. Close combat actually doesn't get the knockout there. They swap back into Whiscash, and we actually choose intentionally to stop attacking so that we can farm down with the Cast Form, and now we should be fine. Even if they full send a Brave Bird here, we can still tank it, but actually, they go for the Feather Dance, we call the bait there, and the opponent just concedes the match. And into the next battle, we're going to see Defense Form Deoxys, which is, it's been a while since I've seen this Pokemon in the Great League, but we're going to stay in this matchup, of course, resisting counter on our Xerneas. We're going straight for Moonblast. Moonblast does decent damage, and eventually the opponent is going to throw some energy. Of course, they want to farm up as much as possible because Psycho Boost is going to drop their attack stat. Now they swap out straight away into a Victini. We've got Cast Form here, which has a decent matchup. However, unfortunately, whilst both Hex and Weather Ball are going to hit for super effective damage, it won't quite be enough damage to get the knockout here. So the opponent is going to no-shield, and now they're going to farm up to back-to-back V-Creates. First one should get the knockout here, and we will need to use a shield on our Kecleon if we come in with the Kecleon, because V-Create is going to do a ton of damage. So we shield there. The opponent is going to swap back into a Vigoroth here, which again, it's been a while since I've seen this Pokemon, but we go for Dynamic Punch. Dynamic Punch is not respected. It does huge damage there, puts them into range where we can just Geomancy farm down, but we go for the Sucker Punch farm down instead. They come back in with the Deoxys, and they are forced to throw some energy. So of course, Psycho Boost will get the knockout here, but we can just farm down the remainder of their team. Deoxys goes down, so does the Victini, and we're able to take that game. Heading into the next battle, we're going to see Xerneas into a Zangoose. So if they're on Fury Cutter, we will resist the fast move damage, and because we're a Fairy-type Pokemon, we're also going to resist both Night Slash and close combat. So we completely wall this Pokemon. However, Night Slash, well, I was going to say if they go for a close combat there, that would still do quite a lot of damage. But anyways, they swap out. We go for Moonblast into the Blastoise, and now we swap into our Cast form. So this is definitely a matchup where having Energy Ball would be a lot more beneficial for us, as it would be super effective, but we should just barely live 2 Hydro Cannons here. We're full sending Hurricane. Hurricane, gotta be no-shielded. And now at this point, we're probably going to no-shield as well. The opponent going to go for another Hydro Cannon, but no, actually that does get the knockout. We're going to come in with the Kecleon. They're going to reach another Charge Move before we can fully farm them down. So at this point, we are going to start using our shields. We shield up the Hydro Cannon. We get the full farm down. They're going to come back in with the Zangoose, so we're going to go straight for a Dynamic Punch. Dynamic Punch is going to hit for super effective damage. We grab the final shield there, and again, this should just be another Night Slash, so we're going to no-shield. We can tank that, and we're going straight for a close combat. We go for the Undercharge, it still easily gets the knockout, but their final Pokemon, unfortunately, is going to be Florges, and they get the perfect farm down. And now this is our final Pokemon, which means if they go for Chilling Water, we have no way of clearing that debuff, which means we're just not going to be able to deal enough damage with these Thunder Punches. And like I've mentioned several times already, Psycho Punch is going to be resisted. We can look to shield here, however, I think the damage is now done. Chilling Water, going to debuff our attack stat once again. We're actually going for Dynamic Punch here, hoping this is going to do more damage, but unfortunately, it's still nowhere near enough damage to get the knockout, and so I guess we just end that game early. But into the next battle, I believe possibly the final battle of this video, once again leading into another Fairy type, but we're going to swap out straight away into our Cast form, as of course we do have super effective damage in the form of Hex. Now unfortunately Weather Ball doesn't really deal too much damage there, but the opponent's going to come in with a Dunsparce, and we are full sending the Hurricane. Hurricane gonna connect, but unfortunately that is not even gonna be enough damage to two-shot them here. And of course, our Hex damage just really isn't adding up over time. So we're gonna no-shield here. We should still live another drill run from this range, but that does get us very low. Now we can reach a second Hurricane here. Hurricane number 2 is gonna be shielded, and now we swap into our Xerneas. We're probably not going to... No, never mind. We are going to shield here. I was going to say, probably not going to look to shield here just because they do have a Rapidash, but we're now going to farm up Throw on CMP as we go for close combat, and close combat going to be shielded there. Now, I personally wouldn't shield this just because they're likely going to come back in with the Rapidash, and they do exactly that. However, the opponent goes for Body Slam, which we're able to tank, and now we swap out, we clear the debuff, and we come in with Kecleon to catch another Body Slam. Now, the opponent is going to reach one more charge move, but it won't be the Wild Charge. It's just going to be another Body Slam, which we can tank. So let's see what they're going to do. They're going to come in with a Linoon, which is great for us because, of course, we've got Dynamic Punch. Dynamic Punch does huge damage there. The opponent realizes it's game over, and so they concede the match. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now, if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.